Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our career unit for our magazine, our current issue of our magazine. And, of course, we're talking about careers, jobs that you'd like to have in the future. But, of course, you may have heard this before. Maybe the job you're training for now may not exist by the time you graduate from university.
Ooh.
And the main reason for that is AI seems to be changing everything in the job market. Artificial intelligence or computers, robotics, whatever you want to call it. The structure of the work world is changing. And, it still might be a win-win situation. We might not all be replaced by computers. There may still be something to do, and there may be ways to make a ton of money.
It's always about making money. I don't mind so much that robots replace some of the more dangerous jobs out there so we can keep people alive longer. I always think of people as moms and dads and brothers and sisters. We don't want to lose people in our family. But there are still things that AI just doesn't do very well. They certainly don't do emotion very well, and they don't do, they can't really interpret people's reactions and brains like we can. There are things that I'm not sure robots will ever do very as well as people. One of the things we found out is that our eyes are amazing. Our eyes do so much more than these robots' eyes do. So we'll see what happens. But a lot of people, I know someone who's in the media who loves to do rants. Rant is just, being really angry about some issue and talking about it. He rants about robots all the time. But it's kind of, it's a little scary. I don't want to turn over really important things like judgment to robots. They don't have the judgment that people have. They don't have the compassion. They can't reason the way we do. But there are some things that AI can do. We're going to talk about those things.
Let's get to it. Let's read the entire contents of today's lesson now one time.
The robots are going to take our jobs. In the past, such a declaration might have sounded dramatic and overly fearful. But artificial intelligence, AI, has made great strides in recent years, and even greater advancements are imminent. These days, predictions of robots or computer programs making certain jobs unnecessary aren't as silly as they once seemed. Neither are they all bad news, however. Such a change could even be a net positive for society. Before COVID-19 swept the world, many businesses were already turning to automation for certain jobs. Factories made use of robots for repetitive tasks, and AI made light work of data sorting. The arrival of the pandemic accelerated the adoption of automated workers as human ones became unavailable. Robots became indispensable for disinfecting public areas and reducing human-to-human contact. Worker shortages and mass resignations in countries like the US and UK have since created further incentive and opportunities for automation. One UK robotics company created weed-killing robots to be used on farms in place of chemical pesticides. Meanwhile, many e-commerce distribution centers, such as Amazon's warehouse, utilize robotic vehicles to move inventory. Experts predict that repetitive, tedious jobs like these are the ones most likely to be done fully by AI in the future. Those that depend on analyzing data sets to make predictions, such as the outcome of a legal case, will also be subject to possible replacement. However, this is good news for the people who would otherwise do such jobs, as it frees them up for more rewarding work, or even some much-needed time off. On the employer's side, AI workers are desirable, as they minimize the cost of certain types of work. However, with the scope of AI's abilities ever widening, many are wondering what will happen to the human job market.
All right, let's talk about the contents of today's lesson. Of course, we are kind of worried that AI or robotics or computers will take over the job market and we'll all be living on the street begging for money and we won't be able to find a job because all of the computers have taken over everything.
Oh, no.
But we're suggesting that losing jobs to AI may actually be a win for society. We may actually be able to create new jobs that are more interesting. We won't have to do dead-end jobs anymore. This is quite optimistic here. And here it says, this is something someone might say, the robots are going to take our jobs. Yes, indeed, in the past, such a declaration might have sounded dramatic and overly fearful. I think there was a similar situation many years ago when machines were taking over and we had these people called Luddites who were not interested in using those new machines. They still wanted to work the fields by hand with their bare hands, and they did not want to use the newfangled tractors and things like that. So this has been around for quite some time. People have been afraid of losing their jobs to technology for a long time.
Yeah, we had the Industrial Revolution that first happened in England, remember? And people were so upset that machines were being moved into factories and people who had done the work previously were being put out on the streets. Of course, change is always scary to us. We just have to make sure that change is done in the proper way, in the right way, that people are considered more than profit. I think some corporations continue to believe that it's all about profit and that people come last. But we need to be thinking about people too. That will be important. But it says here, artificial intelligence, it says here, has made great strides in recent years. If you stride or make a stride or take a stride, first of all, it just means a long step as you're walking. That's a stride. My dad would have very long strides, and when I would go on walks with him, I'd have to say, hey, Dad, slow down, because my legs aren't as long. But it also means progress that people are making, improvements. Oh, we've made great strides in helping people. We've made great strides in producing better nutrition or healthier food. So you can make great strides in different things. Remember, here, it means improvements of some sort. And you'll often see those two words together, great strides or major strides or giant strides, just improvements of some nature.
And most often in the plural, I don't really hear a great stride all that often.
Yeah.
I think it is used, but great strides is more common.
True.
We most often use it in the plural. And yes, indeed, AI has made great strides in recent years. It has advanced, and even greater advancements are imminent. So an advancement is when something improves and moves forward. And if something's imminent, that means it's going to happen very soon. Oh, you better go inside. A tornado is imminent. There's going to be a tornado any second now. If you're outside, you're going to get killed. Or you could say a typhoon is imminent. Some people may say, oh, disaster is imminent. We need to prepare for the end of the world.
Ooh. So these days, predictions of robots or computer programs making certain jobs unnecessary aren't as silly as they once seemed. Yeah, I know. I guess it was about 25 years ago was when iRobot came out with Will Smith, I think. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, which means I don't know the exact date. I could be wrong. I remember thinking, ooh, this is scary. Those robots want to kill us. But we've learned over the years that robots are able to do a lot of things, but they can't quite keep up with people in many ways that it's just because we're human and we're not machines. So we'll see. There were predictions long ago, but a lot of people said, oh, stop being ridiculous. That's a conspiracy theory. Oh, you're just being crazy. Now we see that those predictions aren't as silly as they once seemed. Why? Because we're seeing robots take over a lot of the jobs.
But yes, indeed, we're saying that AI has made great strides in recent years. Greater advancements are imminent, and maybe some jobs will be unnecessary because AI will take over. Now, let's talk about COVID-19 in the next paragraph here. It says, before COVID-19 swept the world, many businesses were already turning to automation for certain jobs. Automation refers to the process of making things automatic, okay, which means it operates by itself. Like you may have an automatic watch, for example. It winds itself because of some internal mechanism that will be automatic. But then automation is the whole science behind making things work on their own. So if we're turning to automation for certain jobs, that means we're relying on machines to do things when we were relying on people to do them before.
Yeah, that's kind of sad for the kids, though. I mean, I think all of us started out, most of us, started out having jobs that didn't pay very well, but it was a way to get going. And, you start out not making very much and doing more repetitive things. And then as you gain more experience and you learn more, you can take on harder jobs. Here it says factories made use of robots for repetitive tasks. If something's repetitive, it just repeats over and over and over again. And sometimes it can be very boring. There are repetitive tasks that we have at home. Household chores are repetitive. You can't just clean once and have the house stay clean. You have to keep cleaning, keep doing the laundry, keep cooking, keep doing the dishes. Those are kind of repetitive tasks.
They are repetitive indeed. Yes, repetitive means things are happening over and over. So indeed, these robots may be willing to take over those repetitive tasks like working in factories and screwing a dealy bob onto a thingamajig on the construction line or on the, what's that called? The conveyor belt or whatever.
Now, Tom, explain that those aren't real words.
Yeah, those are just words we use to talk about various things that we don't...
Thingamajig. We say thingamajig a lot when we don't know what it's called.
Yeah, or dealy bob, that's another one. What's this thing we're supposed
dealy
to
bob.
use? Yeah, this thingamajig. But in any case, yeah, if you work in a factory, it can be quite repetitive, working on the same thing over and over and over again. And AI might make light work of data sorting. Data is information, and yes, indeed, there are people who specialize in data entry. They're just sitting there at the computer all day long, entering data into the computer. That can be repetitive, that can be boring, so maybe AI can help out with that. Okay, that brings us to the midway point in our lesson for today. Let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是寒假专刊 Unit 15 Losing Jobs to AI May be a Win for Society 第一天的课程。这个单元探讨的是 AI 带来的就业冲击。大家都惊叹科技发展日新月异，可是有没有想过，有一天很多工作不再需要人来做，只要有机器人代劳就好。我想大家听了以后，应该开始会对于高科技有些疑虑吧。好，我们现在一起来看看学习重点。请看到第一段的第一句 The robots are going to take our jobs。文章开头呢，先用一个很多人常听到的话，机器人要把我们的工作抢走啦。好，后面呢，作者接续，怎么接续？他说 In the past, such a declaration might have sounded dramatic. 好 might 加 have 再加 pp 就表示对过去的事情的猜测。以前的人这样说的时候，那会有什么样的效果呢？ Sound dramatic 好像很戏剧化。好，所以这是对过去的猜测。但现在 But artificial intelligence 就是大家比较常听到是简单的说法 AI has made great strides in recent years 其实就是大大的进步 has improved a lot 的意思has made a lot of progress 大大的进步 and even greater advancements are imminent 而且还不是只有这样子而已它会持续进步的。那接下来我们看到第四句稍微复杂一点，句子很长。 老师想请问各位同学，有没有看出来到底哪里是主词啊？哇，主词真长，不过最核心的地方是 predictions， 一直到 on 之前都是主词，不过核心的地方是 predictions， 就是这样子的预言 on as silly as they once seemed。 今天来看这样的预言，其实呢不像以前听到的时候好像会觉得啊，这是无稽之谈。这样子清楚了吗？那到底是什么预言呢？就是在 of 后面告诉我们，就是机器人或者呢电脑程式会让一些工作不需要有人做这些工作了。接着请同学看到第一段的第五句，第五句这里一开始 Neither are they， 其实这是倒装句，意思是说以上所说的不全然呢都是坏消息。请注意哦 Neither are they all bad news， 其实呢原来应该是说这些都不完全是真正的主词其实是 they。 好，再来请同学看到第二段的第一句。那我们知道说武汉肺炎从2020年开始，其实影响世界2-3年的时间，所以说横扫全世界 COVID-19 swept the world。 那这个请同学呢特别记起来。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about losing jobs to AI and how it might be a win for society, not something that's negative but positive. We talked about how just even, a couple of decades ago, people were really nervous and very anxious about the fact that robots were coming and they're going to take our jobs. They're going to steal our jobs. And we know from lots of history and lots of research that people need to work to feel good about themselves. Some people think, just give me a check, I'll stay home and play computer games. It actually doesn't make you feel good after a while. People need to be productive. They need to work and feel like they're contributing to society. But if robots come, Tom, and they take our jobs, what are we going to do?
Well, those companies who use the robots need to make money somehow, which means they need to rely on consumers. So if everybody loses their jobs, they won't have money to buy products, and then the companies won't be able to sell their products. So I think this will work out on its own, although I'm not an economist and I can't tell you exactly how that's going to happen. But I'm fairly optimistic about automation taking over and maybe taking over those repetitive tasks and doing the data sorting and stuff like that. Now, we're back to the subject of COVID-19, and it says the arrival of the pandemic accelerated the adoption of automated workers as human ones became unavailable. Remember, lots of people were staying home. They were isolating because we didn't want to come in contact with infected people, and we wanted to stop the spread of the deadly virus. So, yes, indeed, people were working at home, but companies still needed to produce stuff, so they relied on automated workers, which would mean the robots. And, of course, this pandemic accelerated the adoption of automation. To accelerate means to speed something up. Like if you're going to enter the freeway, you need to accelerate, you need to speed up so that you match the speed of the other cars and so you don't cause an accident. So in this particular case, yes, it sped up the adoption of automated workers.
So again, if something accelerates, it happens faster than usual, or it happens sooner than you might expect. The opposite to accelerate would be decelerate. So you'll sometimes see that word too. You need to decelerate. You need to accelerate. We often use it when we're talking about driving a car. So yeah, things have accelerated. And because of COVID and people being afraid of this COVID-19, people were starting to use automated workers or robots, as human ones were either forced to stay home by the government or they were so afraid they didn't want to go out of the house. So robots became indispensable. If something's indispensable, you must have it. It's something that's essential, something that's very, very crucial to whatever you're talking about. So they became indispensable for something here, disinfecting public areas. So instead of sending out human beings, all suited up in their hazmat uniform, they would send out robots to spray the area with disinfectant, and that reduced human-to-human contact. Now, worker shortages were also plentiful. Worker shortages, not having enough people to fill the positions that we need, that became a problem too. There also were mass resignations in countries like the US and UK. So if someone resigns, they say, I quit, I no longer want to work here, I'm leaving. And that happened quite a bit in the US and the UK both. And that has since created further incentive and opportunities for automation. What does incentive mean, Tom?
The reason to do something, basically. Yeah. So, of course, here in Taiwan, the population is going down. Couples are not having children like they used to. So the government wants to give people some incentive to have more children. And so they're giving them tax breaks and other benefits and things like that. That's a reason to do something. Hey, there's some incentive there to do this. So maybe I should accept that offer.
I wanted to mention here, our author is using this as a non-count noun. It's also countable. So it's one of those tricky ones. It's countable and non-countable. So you could say, has since created further incentives. Add an S, it's fine. Here, it's being used as a non-count, and that's correct too. So an incentive, like Tom says, is your motivation. What kind of incentive do you need to do well in life? I need to be rewarded. I need to be appreciated. People have different types of incentives that work for them.
Right. When I went to college, of course, my parents helped me pay for everything, but I had no incentive to work, but I still wanted work experience, so I worked in food service and the mailroom and stuff like that. So, of course, that helped me get some work experience and things like that. And yes, indeed, these resignations offered incentive and opportunities for automation. So the companies thought, well, if you guys aren't going to do it, we'll have the machines do it. And one UK robotics company created weed-killing robots to be used on farms in place of chemical pesticides. Pesticides are chemicals used to kill bugs and pests. And meanwhile, many e-commerce distribution centers, such as Amazon's warehouses, utilize robotic vehicles to move inventory. Inventory is just the stuff they have in the factory or in the warehouse, I should say. Sometimes people take inventory. They count and assess how much stuff there is in a store or warehouse.
So in American English, it would be the goods in a shop. We also refer to it as stock or out of stock. Sometimes there are sales in stores, especially if you're in the U.S. and you run into the store because there's this great sale on canned string beans or canned corn. And there on the aisle shelf, it'll say, out of stock, sorry. It just means they've sold out, but they're going to get more in. So, inventory. Moving on, we've got experts that predict that repetitive, tedious jobs like these are the ones most likely to be done fully by AI in the future. If you use this word tedious, it just means something that's very boring. And it usually takes a long time, and it's just tiring and boring both.
And it goes on here to say, these are the ones most likely to be done fully by AI in the future. That would be the repetitive, tedious jobs. And those that depend on analyzing data sets to make predictions, such as the outcome of a legal case, will also be subject to possible replacement. Be subject to means it's likely to happen to you. If you break the law, you may be subject to punishment by having to pay a fine or going to jail. And it goes on to say, however, this is good news for the people who would otherwise do such jobs, as it frees them up for more rewarding work or even some much much needed time off. So indeed, people who do these kinds of boring jobs may find this a godsend because, hey, I can find another job and I don't have to do this boring, tedious, repetitive work anymore.
So here it says on the employer side, AI workers are desirable. They minimize the cost of certain types of work, which is true. However, with the scope or the range, that's what scope means, the range of something you're talking about, of AI's abilities ever widening, they're able to do more and more as time goes by. Many people are wondering what will happen to the human job market. We're going to continue talking about that, though that will be in our next program. Right now, we're going to listen one more time to our Chinese teacher.
在接下来，请同学呢看到第4个句子 ，Robots became indispensable for indispensable 这个形容词非常的重要，请同学务必要记得，什么是 indispensable 呢？就是绝对需要的，它是无法被取代的。好，那在疫情期间呢，就需要机器人，因为机器人不会染疫嘛，所以公共区域要消毒，我们就可以请机器人来做。而且呢，机器人也可以减少人与人的接触。再来，那因为疫情期间有哪些问题啊 ？Worker shortages 缺工 and mass resignations。那所以还有其他问题，就是会有人就是辞职的情况，而且人数不少。请注意到第5句这里要特别注意的是，前面主词其实是 worker shortages and mass resignations 这个部分。那后面动词从哪里开始啊 ？have 是助动词 ，have since created。同学要特别注意，这个或许不是那么常见，但是意思是指从那时候开始，从那时候开始缺工。还有呢，就是很多工作有人辞职，就造成了后面的现象。好，再来，请同学看到第3段。第3段呢，我们看到 experts predict that 有一些专家他们呢就预言了，有些工作是可能会被 AI 被机器人取代的。哪些工作 ？repetitive 重复性高的。Tedious jobs 乏味的工作，因为我们知道乏味的工作其实也容易让人不专心，那就容易发生什么职灾嘛。好，所以这些工作很有可能会被机器人取代。再来，请同学呢看到第3个句子。However, this is good news for the people who would otherwise do such jobs, as it frees them up for more rewarding work, or even some much needed time off. 好，请同学特别注意到的是这里的 otherwise 这边哦，其实从语义上来说，他想要表达的就是，其实如果不是机器人做这些事，这些工作还是需要，那谁来做？当然是人来做这件事情啊。所以如果不是有机器人代劳，若非如此，那么呢，就是会有人去从事以上所说的这些工作。那刚好有人来有机器人取代，很好啊。It frees them up， 就可以让人呢有空出时间来做其他比较有价值的工作。好，那接下来请看到第4句 On the employer side， 那从雇主的角度来看 ，AI workers are desirable。那为什么雇主会愿意用 AI 呢？是因为 they minimize the cost， 他们会降低成本。好，以上就是我们针对第1天课程所做的中文讲解，谢谢。
That's all for today, everybody. But as promised, we're going to continue talking about this topic in our next program, and we're optimistic about AI. They're not going to totally take over like all those robots. From all of us here at English Digest, my name is Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.